Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Chef Olivia Ostrow of Miami's Ostrow Brasserie, the only kosher French restaurant in the States. Welcome, Olivia. So nice to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel really honored.
I was trying to find the perfect guest to talk pre-Valentine's Day. So this is going live on February 12th. And but it really sounds funny as Jews to talk about Valentine's Day because it kind of feels a little opposite. What do you think?
I mean, I think any celebration that can put love, in the front, as the in the on the main stage, is a must. Especially as Jews, right now in a time where there's a lot of hate. Why not, celebrate it more than ever? I think we can all use it. So, for me, I love what I do and it's a must to, as a chef, to love food and love what you do. But any, day that it can be highlighted even more, why not?
I am all for highlighting love, enjoyment at any time because we need it to combat all of the opposite of that. But it's right now, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, any anywhere you can, say I love you. And, as chef, we say I love you with our food all the time. Like every dish, is what we say because you have to, especially as a French person, our love language is food. This is, this is how we express ourselves. So yeah, absolutely. I wasn't gonna miss the opportunity to celebrate, Valentine's. Though Valentine will be celebrated because we are glad kosher on the 13th, which is a Thursday, technically not on Valentine's Day, which is a Friday. Because Friday we do Shabbat with family, and that's how we also say I love you. So yes.
Yes, it is a Valentine's Day Shabbat. I really want to dive into where did your love of cooking come from?
I mean, I was really like born into it. I come from a family from my grandparents that had vineyards and that cultivated the art of cooking and the art of eating, introducing me to my first Michelin restaurant when I was 5 years old. Uh, to my father who invested in restaurants, my mom who was come from a very high end family in France and was mostly raised by the chefs that they had. Like in the kitchen versus having dinner with with the adult, which was like the old French way to be raised. So I grew up with that. I grew up surrounded by a love of food and a knowledge of food.
And the kosher, is that also from how you were raised?
My father's side of the family was like, all kosher. My mom's side of the family was not, though Jewish, obviously, but not kosher at all. So it was like back and forth, with kosher yes, kosher no, kosher yes, kosher no. I was raised conservative, in the sense that I used to go to temple where a woman, with the woman on one side, the man on the other. We would, follow Shabbat and everything. But the kosher food came on and off throughout my life. When at some point in my life, after I lost my dad, I decided to make my journey and make Aliyah, which is, moving to Israel. So when I lived in Israel, I went full on kosher. Then when I came back to France, I kept it. Then later I dropped it. And then, like it was like always an on and off. I want to, but I don't want to. I want to, but I don't want to. And when COVID hit, um, and I previously had several restaurants that were non-kosher, and I closed all my restaurants. That's when I was like, maybe I'll go back to the kosher love affair, that I grew up with. And when I was ready to reopen a restaurant, and I started looking at location, the gentleman that was the owner of the building happened to be Jewish and religious. So when he met me, I met him. He was like, I want to be your partner. And next thing we opened, like we decided to make that French restaurant that I have in mind to make it kosher. So it's faith and it's fate.
Faith and fate. I love that. And is that what led you to the States?
Now, I've been here over 20 years. Grew up in Paris, uh, came to study, at UNC, was in business school. My father, hooked me up with a job as a hostess in a restaurant where I ended up as a dishwasher and cutting onions. That's where it all started. Then I was there for a long time. I stayed in the state for a long time. Then I moved back to France after my father passed and that's when I decided to make Alia. And then I decided to come back to the States where, later I met my husband. So, to give you an idea, my oldest child is almost 23 and she's born in the United States. So I have been here for a while.
So let's go back to fate and faith in creating this. What has been the biggest joy of this kosher-French restaurant for you?
I think it's a very pragmatic question and a very pragmatic answer that has a date on it, to be honest, which is October 7th. I opened the restaurant about a month before October 7th. And October 7th happened. And I think a lot of people got divided even more than they were. And at least if the divide existed before, it was not outspoken, as much as it became after. And I then realized that there was no other places that I would rather be every night, that surrounded by people that I could have open conversation with, and that eventually would share, most of the time, my opinion and my feeling. And there was a sense of support, that we all need from each other. So it felt really good. And it definitely felt that more than ever, it was meant to be. And that's the fate, and it was meant to be, to have this restaurant be kosher and not just another restaurant.
A lot of people, though, would not even begin to associate kosher with French food. So how do you do that?
I mean, the reason nobody, would associate with it is because it's hard. So, I'm not a sandwich maker, though my sandwich, I make for my kids when they're hungry, are very good. So, here we cuisine. We don't cook. We are a team of real chefs. We are real people with proper training. I have on my staff incredible chefs that are trained by the best. And so we all wanted and felt up for the challenge to take on most impressive cuisine in the world, which is French cuisine, that nobody has touched in the kosher properly, because it's so hard, because it's butter-based, because everything would have to be made from scratch in order to, to actually execute, that dish. Because, there's so many kosher laws beside not mix the milk and the meat, like only certain ingredient you can. And then you have to have only use kosher ingredients, to the mushroom you're going to use, it has to be certified and approved. So we needed to be able to have like a real team in place that really understand the French cuisine and the kosher cuisine and have the passion that I have, which, I feel like I've been very successful at surrounding myself with the right people. And that's why it has never been done before, because it's such a hard kind of cuisine, like to execute.
And fancy. I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah, it is. But that's the beauty, Look, I'm not saying, other restaurants are not great. I mean, There's a restaurant in town that I love that, I get my shawarma from and I love it. But when it comes to, open a certain cuisine when you're chef, then you have certain expectation for yourself. And we wanted to take that challenge. And yes, it's fancy. Yes, it's, I like to say that my food is actually fine comfort food. It is not nouvelle cuisine, which, nouvelle cuisine is something that never spoke to me. I found it pretentious and boring, and it leaves me hungry. So the whole nouvelle cuisine and the Michelin star, that have smoke coming out of their plate doesn't do it for me. The fond, the this, the that, never did, never will. But I do understand that a lot of people are like, about it. Now, what doesn't speak to me also is a dish that looks like nothing and tastes like nothing, and just because it's kosher, people are going to pay for it. That doesn't seem right to me. So I wanted to find an in between where, we get to create something great and something pretty, but that does also appeal to the vision, but also, talks about our childhood and where we coming from, using ingredients that people understand, plating things the way people can relate to. But yes, it's fine food and it's fine dining.
And comfort food, which I love because you don't normally associate that with French cooking. You associate it with kosher cooking because those are the foods we grew up with that we associate the love with. So you've got a very nice mesh, I think, of these two loves.
What the reason you don't associate it and people outside of France don't associate it with it, it's because they're not French. But I mean, we eat comfort food. I mean, we eat beef bourguignon. Beef bourguignon, for example, here it's a stew and, short rib and braised with wine. But for when you grow up, it's like literally leftover of the meat of the week that your mom puts in a pot, put in, in the oven, and then you eat that in front of the TV, when you're little with mashed potato on top of pasta. Like, this is our comfort food. So yes, when you're from outside of France and you haven't grown up with that, of course, it sounds very high end. Everything is so like, oh wow, oh wow. But for us, it's a little different because it's our heritage and this is what we grew up with. So this is why I don't call my food and my restaurant fine dining. It's a fine comfort food dining, and we try to speak the language of food and not be overly pretentious.
That's amazing. And I feel like the love comes out more that way.
Absolutely. When you have to be, that's why I'm not judging the people who put foam and smoke coming out of their plate. If that's how they say I love you to the crowd, then good for them. But I don't need foam for that.
Do you have an example? Because I love to include a French meal people can make at a home.
I mean, very easy to make is honestly is it could be the beef bourguignon or it could be a French onion soup. So the beef bourguignon, you can take even you can take a brisket. I go with short rib because it has a lot of fat. So, like you take your short rib, you cut it, in cube, go for a larger cube because as you cook it for so long, it will shrink. You cube it, you marinate it overnight and leave it covered with wine and herbs. I love herb de Provence. I love tarragon. I love bay leaves. You can add some garlic and some caramelized onion, leave it overnight. And then the day after, you add some carrots, and whatever really you want, in that, you can add more onions, more garlic. Some people like to add even like potatoes. And then you braise it, you cover it, you put it in the oven, you let it sit, you let it cook, slow cook like, some of, us Ashkenazi Jew would make a brisket, and you let it braise for hours. So like slow cook. Then after, you put it out. It's all cooked. Your meat should be extremely tender by then. You drain everything out and then you recook, you reduce your wine and you reduce everything. You strain everything out. And then you create, by recooking your wine and everything. You can also use the carrots that you had in the original cooking and blend them and add them to the wine. So it's like, that's what can create, a little thicker, sauce. And then you eat that and you can serve that with, it can be with rice. It can be with is on top of pasta. It can be alone with sauteed potatoes. It can be, like in a bowl, like alone, and it can be a fancy dish, or it can be, like I said, in a bowl in front of, TV. Why not?
Why not? Because the food is there, the love is there. Enjoy it in the way you're going to enjoy it the most, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
The other recipe that you sent to me that we're going to include in the recap, so if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, is a heart-shaped pasta. So tell me about that one.
So the heart-shaped pasta, we came up with this idea, and it's linked with our celebration of love for Valentine's. So, yes, we are a French restaurant. Obviously, France, Paris is the city of love, which is where I come from. But I wanted to, throw my hat to, everyone, out there. So, with the knowledge that the four most known city of love represent romantic cities in the world are Paris, Rome, Venice, and Kyoto. I wanted to add to my menu some special, not only, saying I love you, je t'aime in French, but saying it in many other language. Because again, I think having the opportunity to celebrate love one day a year should be said in every language and, in as many ways as possible, and not only in our. So we have a heart-shaped pasta, which is gonna, one of our special. So we uh, use like a bit red color to create that red, color to the dough that we made, and we're gonna stuff it with our pastrami bacon that we're gonna saute with fresh artichoke, and we're also gonna puree the artichoke and stuff it. So that's gonna be our heart-shaped pasta. Um, so we also are gonna have even. I'm gonna make a steak that I'm gonna slice, and I'm gonna make a yuzu and wasabi puree. That's gonna be for the Kyoto side of things. For the Italian side of things, one of our desserts is gonna be, we're gonna make our homemade, cannolis stuff with chocolate mousse and limoncello, and create like different different flavors like that. So we're gonna try to put a more European / universal menu special. Now obviously that will be on top of our regular menu, but it's also for us to have fun, and for people who come here often to also get a kick out of it, and see, one of the many crafts and ideas that we have up our sleeves.
It does sound fun, and I love the bringing of different cultures together is what you always want to do. But the other thing, what we were speaking about before is, yes, Valentine's Day is celebration of love, and again, 2-day holiday because you want to do the day before, and Valentine's is on Shabbat. What are some other ways people can bring love to the plate, whether it is for this week or really at any time? Because isn't that always the goal, is to bring the love to the meal?
I mean, it is, but I'm gonna be honest with you. If someone doesn't like to cook, they shouldn't. Like, I mean, that you have to, and I'm not talking only as a job. I'm not talking, you have to love it to own a restaurant. Of course you do. But if someone likes to eat out for someone else to cook for them, then go eat out. Enjoy, say, I love you by having someone else cook for you, because that's how it should be. If you don't like, if someone doesn't even like to eat so much, go enjoy a glass of wine and do a wine pairing with cheese. It's very important when it comes to food to stay true to yourself. Not always, go out necessarily of your comfort zone when it comes to, saying I love you. Like, don't force yourself. Like a lot of, women that I meet, most of them love cooking, but a lot of them do not. And the men are taking over, and they enjoy, telling me the story of how much they cook for their wife and everything. And that's how it should be, like break the barrier. Like, it's not common to see a woman chef to begin with. And I do it because this is my passion, And I think, sometimes you need to say, I love you by also being honest. So pick up Uber Eats, go out to Ostrow Brasserie. I mean, that's that. Don't force it.
I am a former non-cook, so I didn't start to love cooking until about 8 years ago when I figured out easy ways to cook because that was like a light for me. Oh, you mean cooking doesn't need to be complicated. I can do this. And that just opened a door for me. So I can respect the people who love people to cook for them. But as someone who loves to cook, it really depends on your love language regards to food. So I really love the way you laid that out. Do you have any final food for thought?
I mean, I just think, it is a time where people should enjoy life as much as possible. It is a carpe diem, kind of moment to enjoy a meal. And I don't want to sound uh, cliche or anything, but life is short. You have to enjoy life.
Enjoy life and enjoy food in the way it best enhances your life.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Chef Olivia, for joining me. Where can people learn more about you and your restaurant?
I think we have a wonderful social media and Instagram. That's Ostrow Brasserie. We update our menu that we change often and have a lot of events on our website at ostrowbrasserie.com. And also for anyone who wants to have fun, see how much press we get. And, from Page Six to Forbes magazine to podcasts like yours that are like amazing, they can just Google the restaurant and everything pops out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you for tuning
Your
in.
pleasure, all mine.
Thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, or your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can get the recipes we talk about and read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, love the food and bon appetit.
Bon appetit.